Did Microsoft ruin Rareware? We all know Rareware. They were one of the biggest developers when it came to the Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64. They created games like Killer Instinct, Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye 007. They just created a lot of fantastic games on the Nintendo 64 and the Super Nintendo, and they did wonders for Nintendo in those generations. But once the GameCube generation came around, Nintendo decided to sell them to Microsoft after the somewhat failure of Star Fox Adventures. Star Fox Adventures was one of those games that they developed, but it had very mixed reviews, and that was really weird for Rareware. And then here came Microsoft offering around $175 million for Rareware as a company. So Nintendo sold them to Microsoft. Microsoft has them develop Conquer Live and Reloaded, one of the greatest platformers of all time remade. And frankly, this was one of the greatest games I think they have ever personally made. But after that, they had a little bit of a mix when it came to the games released. After that, with games like Grab by the Ghoulies, these were games that kind of had mixed reviews. They did alright. They had moderate success, but they weren't as crazy as what they were doing on the Nintendo 64. And just as time went on, there was games like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts and just stuff like that started to have kind of a mixed kind of praise. And then Sea of Thieves came out in 2018, and since then we have had pretty much nothing when it came to Rareware. So with that all in mind, I think there's two possibilities for why Rareware hasn't been able to develop games. First one is Rareware just became an unreliable game developer. When it came to the games that they were developing, it just was not too great after the GameCube buyout. Conquer Live and Reloaded was an absolutely fantastic game, but everything after that was really mixed, like Grab by the Ghoulies, Banjo Nuts and Bolts, and Perfect Dark Zero. They just became a really unreliable game developer. Sea of Thieves is just an okay game. You can have fun with Sea of Thieves, but to me personally, I just don't have a lot of fun with it. I really do think Rareware just became a unreliable game developer, and that's why they haven't been releasing games. Microsoft just isn't letting them create games because they just aren't simply capable of making a beneficial, like, for sure, this game will be good like they were hoping for when they bought them. Because that is one of those things to where if you're not going to put a bunch of money into a development company for a game that is okay, you want to put a lot of money into a company that you know is able to create some great games. But then there's the other thing that could have happened with Microsoft. With that, there's another possibility that could have happened with this whole Rareware deal, and that is that Microsoft simply didn't feel like they needed to use anything with Rareware anymore. Because when it comes to a financial standpoint, we all know Microsoft is greedy. They don't want to put a lot of money into anything besides stuff that they know is going to be successful. They don't want to take risks. That's why Call of Duty is one of the biggest things that they develop. They only put money into stuff like that, Bethesda, just things that they know will have a great success. So why would you put that money into a game developer that was good on the Nintendo 64 in the 90s? That is the testimony that I think that they are making. And in addition to all of this, we know that they don't really care that much about Rareware because last year they canceled the Perfect Dark remake that everyone was hyped for, and they decided to cancel Everwild, a new IP that Rareware was developing. So me personally, I think there's two possibilities that could have happened when it came to Rareware nowadays. It's either they just became unreliable or it's typical Microsoft greed, which is what I'm more of on the fence on. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and please subscribe, and I hope that you see you guys in the next one.